37, we are in day 3 of the federal government shutdown, and people want the adults to come back into the room and discuss. One of the adults, former United States Senator, former Attorney General of Missouri, former UN Ambassador, Senator Danforth, joins us by phone. Good morning, Senator Danforth. Thanks for joining us.
Good morning, McGraw.
As you sit and watch, what are your thoughts as this goes on in Washington?
Well, what's happened over a period of the whole Obama presidency is that Republicans have really been shut out of the political process. They have no real role to play. If you were a Republican in the Senate and wanted to participate in the legislative process, Harry Reid would not allow you to bring a bill to the floor. He would not allow you to offer an amendment to a bill. He'd use Senate procedures to stop you from doing that. President Obama is not a negotiator, so he doesn't really include Republicans in anything. So these people have been shut out, and they say, okay, well, what can we do? Well, what's left? There's the continuing resolution, and there's the debt ceiling extension, and those are sort of nuclear options. They're things that really should not be done. They're not responsible, but when the Republicans are excluded, this is what they're left with doing. So I think that the key is to open to them some meaningful role. And I think what Obama should do, he had the members of Congress to the White House for 1 hour yesterday. I think he should bring them there again, and he should say, okay, let's have a real negotiation about fixing some things that we all think may be wrong with Obamacare, and then beyond that, the larger issue of what we're going to do about a $17 trillion national debt, and give at least some inkling of broad outlines of where we could be heading. And in return for that, the Republicans would then delay for some period of weeks both the continuing resolution and the debt ceiling.
Let me play devil's advocate for you. Democrats would say, Senator Danforth, that this continuing resolution is just a bill to fund the government. If you want to sit down and talk about Obamacare or the Affordable Care Act or the debt, we can do that. But as the president said, we don't negotiate with a gun to our head. Let's pass this continuing resolution and let's sit down and negotiate. Why do they want to tie this to that?
Well, from the standpoint of the Republicans, the history of President Obama is he does not negotiate. He doesn't meet with Republicans. They barely know the man. I mean, he is, I guess he thinks of himself as sort of a non-political president, but that's what Washington is. It is politics. It is working things out. It's give and take. It's, nobody gets his way, and I think what we've got now in American politics on both sides of the political spectrum is purists. People on say the Tea Party Republicans who say, okay, this is it. Don't give on anything and hold the line on everything. If you want to compromise, well, that's not permissible. And from the standpoint of the president, a man who doesn't negotiate at any time. So somehow this has got to give.
There are a number of Republicans who have come out who have said, look, let's just pass this resolution. Let's not hold the government hostage. Let's not hold the debt ceiling hostage. Even though we disagree with everything Obama's doing, this isn't the time or the place to do it. Many Republicans, including, I'm reading in the Beacon, Senator Blunt said something like that yesterday. Do you find it interesting? I guess the question to you, Senator Danforth, is the Republican Party, is there a civil war within the Republican Party right now?
Well, let me just answer the first question, that this is not the way to do it. The shutting down the government is not the way to do it. The debt ceiling certainly is not the way to do it. I mean, that really is a terrible approach. But what is the way? I mean, if you wanted the kind of government that worked, where all sides were heard and they could work out their compromises and get through things, what's the path to doing that? Because we're not on that path right now. So I think that really is the key to it. Now, as far as the Republican Party is concerned, that's right. I mean, politics is not pure. It isn't. Politics is politics. You know, politics is messy. You do the best you can. You advance your position to the best of your ability and see where it ends up. That's what politics is. And I think what you've got from the Tea Partiers is kind of the position is, okay, this is all non-negotiable. You know, it's kind of like, it's a little bit like Obama. It's the drawing of red lines, and you know, we're not going to cross this, and we're never going to do that. It's just not the way politics works.
Isn't it true, though, that the party that's quote-unquote out of power always complains about the other party that's in power that doesn't want to negotiate? I mean, we were hearing that criticism of President Bush during his administration.
No, I don't think so, McGraw. I really don't. I've never seen anything like that. I mean, I was in Washington for 18 years. I never saw anything like that. I remember visiting with the great Russell Long, who for years was the chairman of the Senate Finance Committee, a Democrat, and I served on his committee. And I once asked him, what's the secret to being a good committee chairman? And he said, give everybody on the committee, the people, the Republicans and the Democrats, everybody on the committee, a piece of the action, a stake in the bill. And it's very good advice. If you want to get something done, people have to have a stake in it. Well, with Obamacare, it was passed with no Republican input at all. And as I said earlier, with regard to how the Senate functions, Republican input is not allowed. Republican bills are not brought to the floor. Republican amendments are not allowed to be raised on the floor of the Senate. And so these people have just been shut out. Well, if somebody is elected to office and they hope to participate in making the country better, and that's why they're there, and then they're told basically, there's the corner over there, sit in the corner and shut up. And what do you expect them to do? So a lot of the blame has gone on the Republicans, and yeah, I mean, there are Republicans who are unreasonable and uncompromising. And they should be more reasonable, but there is sure a lot of blame to go around here. And I think that President Obama and Senator Reid should look in the mirror and ask themselves how they have brought us to this situation.
What's the end game? How does this end?
Well, I think that when Lee surrendered at Appomattox, Grant gave him generous terms of surrender. He didn't want to humiliate him. And I think that that's the situation here. I think that the president should give something to the Republicans on Obamacare. It might just be the medical device tax, or it might be including members of Congress and the same rules with everybody else. Give them something on that. I think that he should begin right now serious negotiations on the larger question of what to do about a $17 trillion national debt, the possibility of the so-called grand bargain, where we can put our country on better fiscal footing going forward. And in return for that, the Republicans should say, okay, with regard to both the debt ceiling and the continuing resolution, we'll pass an extension for a period of, let's say, a couple of months, and we'll see how these talks go. And if they look promising, then we're heading somewhere that's constructive.
In terms of negotiations, Democrats have agreed to the number, the Republican number. That was their number. They gave him that number, so they gave him 100% of that number. So there was no negotiations there. The Democrats gave the Republicans everything that they wanted on that budget number.
Yeah, I mean, for the length of whatever the length
6
of the
weeks
continuing resolution is, but that really is just a piece of the whole problem. I mean, most government spending is entitlement spending, which is automatic, and that's really going to be the problem for our future. And what we've done with Obamacare is create yet another entitlement program with no real cost control in it. So, the situation is going to get worse going into the future rather than better. So we've got very long-term fiscal problems. We've recognized this for years now. We've recognized it ever since I started in the Senate. And it's very difficult to solve this problem. And it's very, very difficult when there's no trust between the two sides, and that's the situation we're in now. But start somewhere, and I think that if the president would cancel his foreign trip, stop making these political speeches, just be quiet for a minute. Bring the key members of Congress maybe to Camp David, lock them up for weeks if necessary, and say we're going to see how far we can go in negotiating something not just on Obamacare, but on the whole fiscal picture of the future of the country, and see where we go.
Senator Danforth, are you going to be at the Blues game tonight to watch your Blues?
That's my plan.
Senator Danforth, always a pleasure. Thank you for your insight. Have a good day.
Okay, McGraw.
Senator Danforth, ladies and gentlemen, the adult in the room. There's your thoughts on what he has to say. We'll talk about it in the next hour in the board meeting with Tony Messenger, Jane Duker, and others. Right now, how's your sinus?